And now, the general weather around Alaska. Welcome to Alaska Weather. I'm meteorologist Peter Chan, coming to you from the National Weather Service on this December 15th, 2023. Hard to believe we're just 10 days away from Christmas. If you like additional weather information, you can always go to weather.gov. That is the National Weather Service's online presence. It'll bring you to a map of the continental U.S. with Hawaii and Alaska to the lower left. And of note here on this Friday afternoon, we have flood watches already posted here for eastern Pennsylvania, including Philadelphia. In fact, much of this area along the East Coast, extending down across Virginia into the Carolinas, Georgia, could be under some sort of flood watches or advisories as a strong storm develops in the Gulf of Mexico, crosses Florida on Saturday with the potential for some severe weather and heavy rainfall. And then as that system rides northward, it's going to be very wet before enough cold air mixes in on the backside of it and changes it over to snow once you get into upstate New York, northern New England late in the weekend. We have areas of dense freezing fog and poor air quality across the northwest. But here in Alaska, very active weather continues. Anchorage area experiencing another round of light to moderate snow this Friday. It's pushed the season snowfall total as of mid-afternoon up past 63 inches. That's snowfall since October. And an average winter, Anchorage gets about 77 inches of snowfall, and it's very possible by the end of December or early in the new year, we could reach that mark in the Anchorage area. More snow and wind is expected late tonight into Saturday along the southwest coast. There are a number of winter weather-related advisories and warnings in effect. The other day, there was a strong X-class solar flare that could trigger a moderate G2 geomagnetic storm with active auroras Saturday night into Sunday morning. And this overall active pattern across the lower Bering, North Pacific, Alaska Peninsula, southwest coast, southern mainland, across the Gulf, and into the Panhandle will likely continue here through the rest of this month. And looking at a couple of the images from the webcams today, earlier this afternoon, Kipnik breaks in the cloud cover, but a winter weather advisory has been posted there along the Kuskokwim Bay area as a result of this next storm that'll be lifting out of the eastern Aleutians heading toward Bethel during the day Saturday. Anchorage as of early afternoon, steady light to moderate snow, already picked up at least a few more inches, maybe by this time it's all said and done, 4 or so. Temperature though only 12 degrees. Across the interior, Denali National Park entrance was down to 33 below zero this morning for one of the coldest temperatures recorded today in Alaska. Early afternoon temperature had jumped up to 17. Fairbanks, there was an image here of a morning temperature inversion. Temperature 16 below, but see that kind of filmy grayish brown layer? That's the temperature inversion. It's actually warmer above that. That cold, dense sub-zero air just settles there, and as a result, it makes it hard to turn the atmosphere over. It allows pollutants to collect from burning wood as well as from exhaust from vehicles, though conditions should be improving there. We have a wind advisory that's been issued now into Sunday for areas of the north side of the eastern Alaska range, including Donnelly, Fort Greely, those places, Delta Junction, some gusty winds there, perhaps upwards of 50 miles an hour or so. We also have for along the northwest coast, Point Lay down through Point Hope, blowing snow from brisk northeast winds gusting 30, 40 miles an hour. And then as we get here into the southwest, this is for the next storm. An area of low pressure is going to be crossing the eastern Aleutians tonight and then tracking up toward Kuskokwim Bay and Bethel by the time we get into Saturday afternoon. Strong winds and a band of snow with a frontal system could create near blizzard or blizzard conditions at times, especially along the Bristol Bay coastline. 4 to 6 inches of snow. Initially, northeast winds gusting 30, 40 miles an hour, shifting around to the southwest once the low lifts further inland. And then areas around Kuskokwim Bay and the lower Yukon Delta, including Nunavik Island, could experience maybe snow amounts not quite that high, but blowing and drifting snow also possible, where a winter weather advisory is in effect for those areas Saturday and Saturday evening. So an active pattern continues. And here's an image I showed you the other day of that X-class Solar flare. As far as X-class flares go, this is on the low end at 2.8. I've seen them as in the 20s. That's unusual though. But this is not Earth directed. We're just going to get a glancing blow of this because this is the eastern limb of the sun that's rotating away from the Earth. Now, had this been positioned over here, yes, it'd be directly aimed at Earth, but it's going to take a couple days to arrive. That popped off, that X-class flare popped off Thursday morning. There is a G2 for a moderate geomagnetic storm watch. The impact is expected December 17th. Now, we take into account Alaska being so far west that actually is the night of the 16th into the 17th. So we could be looking at some active aurora displays Saturday night into Sunday morning, especially if you have the opportunity where skies are clear. We are working our way toward a first quarter moon. The new moon happened this past Monday. First quarter moon is on Tuesday, December 19th, so the sky will still be good and dark, especially later in the evening and the overnight early morning hours. Looking at the satellite imagery, well, it's just a continuous parade of systems coming up out of the North Pacific, crossing the Bering, or coming up out of the Pacific there, and then crossing the Bering. So we have one system here. That's what's brought the band of snow into the Anchorage area this Friday. But now, back here is another low that's going to be crossing the eastern Aleutians and then working its way toward Kuskokwim Bay and into the lower Yukon basin. And this is the next weather maker here for along the southwest coast, bringing another round of accumulating snow with blowing, drifting snow. So again, we continue to have that active pattern. And then brisk northeast winds up here along the northwest coast, Point Lay to Point Hope, could cause considerable blowing and drifting snow at times over the weekend. Looking at the weather map this Friday afternoon, we have the one weakening low here and a little front that's pushed on up into south central, bringing snow with it. But here's the next main low here, just south of the central Aleutians. That low is going to work its way northeastward. It'll be located northeast of Dutch Harbor by late tonight, say 3 a.m. Saturday morning, and then crossing the southeast portion of the Bering, heading toward Kuskokwim Bay and Bethel by the time we get into Saturday afternoon. That low will be making landfall. And with it, some strong gusty winds. Ahead of it, along this frontal band, there will be accumulating snows that push further north and eastward as we go through the day Saturday into Saturday evening. In fact, this will probably initiate another round of snow in the Anchorage area very late Saturday night and especially Sunday morning. So another, 2-4 inches of snow could fall with that on top of what already fell today, Friday. So the season snowfall total will be growing and approaching 70 inches in Anchorage by then, which is quite remarkable to get an entire winter season snowfall before the end of the year. Looking at Sunday's map, the low that came into Kuskokwim Bay and across the Yukon Delta will weaken as it crosses Norton Sound into the southern part of the Seward Peninsula. The front arcing all the way inland, extending into northwest Canada, the Panhandle, and weakening. There will be other systems, another one coming up here out of the North Pacific. There's another low way out to the west of the Aleutians. So overall, a progressive, active winter weather pattern is expected to continue now through the end of the month. Looking at our temperatures here, lows near or a bit below freezing along the outer southern western coast of the Panhandle, below freezing inner channels. 5 below up at Gulkana, Glen Allen areas, though we are going to have cloud cover around, so it's not going to be quite as cold as this morning. Daytime highs Saturday afternoon should get back up in the 20s, Anchorage Bowl. Along the immediate coast, temperatures are going to be above freezing, so any precipitation this weekend along the immediate coast will generally be rain. But as you get inland, just going up the mountains or getting a little further inland, generally snow. The southern Panhandle will have highs above freezing here, mid-upper 30s. Lows Sunday morning, not as cold as they have been. In fact, the trend into next week will be for temperatures to moderate and to not be quite as cold as they have been. We should get some readings back up in the lower 40s, say at Sitka, Craig, Klawak, and then back up near freezing perhaps by Sunday afternoon with that next push of snow that moves through Sunday morning, because that's all that is part of the same system as it weakens and comes northeastward that slams into the southwest coast on Saturday. Now, in the far north, we still have a number of temperatures below zero. As I mentioned this morning, the entrance of Denali Park was 33 below zero. We could see some readings in the 20s below, especially North Slope areas of the Yukon Flats. But even so, Temperatures are going to moderate here across the interior and the far north as we go into next week. Not quite as cold. So daytime highs still below zero here across much of the central and eastern interior, up along the north slope and Arctic coast. You'll notice a little milder temperatures trying to creep slowly northward as we go into Sunday. Still, though, a number of temperatures well down into the 20s. A few spots could even be, if you're clear, near 30 below. But overall, 20s below pretty likely. And then notice temperatures do kind of bump upwards along and south of the Alaska range, which is kind of a natural barrier often for that warmer air. And then looking at the southwest interior, low temperatures still in the single digits above zero tonight into early Saturday morning, but there is going to be a push of milder air come in. Notice King Salmon, Dillingham could see temperatures back up near freezing Saturday afternoon, even rising into the 20s along the lower Yukon Delta. And then Sunday morning, temperatures to the north here, as this low lifts further north, I think they will moderate so that you get temperatures at least 15 to 20-ish by Sunday afternoon, and readings down along the Alaska Peninsula into the Aleutians will generally be mid-upper 30s. And here is the 6 to 10-day temperature outlook, which does take us from December 21st, the solstice, to Christmas Day. And it is looking like temperatures are going to continue to average above normal across the Panhandle, southeast, and the eastern portion of the mainland along the Alcan border, with temperatures trending a little below normal along the west coast. All this signifies is that in the general circulation of the atmosphere, we have general areas of low pressure over the Gulf and then out over parts of the lower Bering Sea, which is going to mean storm systems coming in could produce above normal precipitation along areas including Anchorage, along and south of the Alaska Range, through the Wrangell-St. Elias Mountains, the intercoastal mountains of the northern and northeastern coastline, and then on into areas of especially the northern half, the Panhandle. So an active weather pattern will continue with the potential for additional significant snowfall with the systems that can provide the moisture that come farther inland. So stay tuned to later forecast here as we go through the holidays.